Hello everyone, welcome to my scrapyard. Today I am going to show how to install install iOS and configure a Cisco 29113 router. So I have gone ahead and open put T here, however you pronounce it in English, and already entered the serial line to connect to my router. You can find this number by opening the device manager, um, whatever, uh, and seeking in the COM and LPT ports group. I'm going to go ahead and open a connection now. So, as you can see, I am already in ROM1 or the ROM monitor. You get automatically thrown into it in a sense when the router cannot find its operating system image. And what I'm going to do here is first reinstall the iOS image. So I'm going to go ahead and open TFTPD. I already have prepared the image for iOS, and then in this case it's going to be something like this. Normally you would obtain it by downloading it from Cisco's website. However, it requires that you first have a service contract with Cisco. There are other alternate ways, such as, I don't know, googling the name of the file or something, but I won't go too in depth because I don't want to get sued. So, I already have the file prepared here. I am going to go ahead and first things first, I would want to not this. What you need to do is set set an IP address for my network card here. Because obviously the router won't obtain it over DHCP. I'm messing things up already. So before I do anything, I first would like to set an IP address for my laptop, because right now I have set up a very simple peer-to-peer connection with the router. It's just a cable between them, no switches or anything, and I'm going to set an IP address like not 100. I'm going, after all that set up nicely, it just needs you first need to assign an IP address to your device. And once that's done, you can go ahead. Well, it's running already, but it doesn't matter. I'm going to close out of this and close out of that. And now I should be able to start listening into here. What's going on with this thing that isn't... not this. I wanted this. So, before we start downloading the image, I'm going to TFTP DNLD if I remember the command. Oh, I need to reset, okay. How did you reset anyway? I forgot. We are going to execute this command, but before I do anything, I need to reset. So I will reset, and then I'm going to prepare to set up and to run the break sequence. I would like to beforehand apologize for any fan noises that can be heard in the background. Both the router and the server underneath, they're a bit loud, not too unbearable, but it's fine. Come on, break. Okay, so I am going to use the TFTP download command So, as you can see, I have already beforehand applied specific all the needed IP addresses and stuff, but obviously I need to show how do you set this up. So what do you need to do is create a few variables. Do note that these variables are case sensitive and they need to be named as they are named here. Otherwise, the command will not execute. I am going to double check if everything is connected nicely. It is not. Come on, connect. This is gonna take a while. Come on. I could have sworn to God I have plugged this thing in, and I did. But it's not going to. And this brings up, and that's another story, but anyways, I'm going to try downloading the image now. TFTP download. Okay. I cannot, in the name of God, remember the name of this command. What do you mean? It's not found. TFTP DNLD. Come on. Okay. So, as it is saying right now, I have not this. I have already set up all the needed variables. You need to give it an IP address, IP subnet mask, obviously, a default gateway, the IP address for the TFTP server, and the file name that we would like to download of the TFTP server. So I am going to give it the go ahead, and okay, it brought up the connection. I can see the light on the router. Okay, so now it is going to basically, well, what can I say? It's going to, of course, download the image. What else can it do? It's going to take a while. During this time, the router will slowly download it, prepare everything, and I will be back as soon as this is done. So iOS has already successfully installed itself. What? That wasn't supposed to happen. Well, whatever. Anyways, as you can see, iOS has already finished installing itself onto the router. It did everything nicely, so I can now go ahead and reset. This is going to be a bit of a lengthy process, but while I'm at it, while it's rebooting, I'm going to definitely talk about how to connect how to connect to the router in the first place. So before anything else is connected, the first thing to do, there are two ways that you can connect to the router. First of all, you can use Cisco official, a Cisco proprietary RJ45 to DB9. Get out, it's fine. What was I saying? Oh yes, you can use a basic Cisco RJ45 to DB9 connector. You connect the cable, but you know what I think you know what I'm trying to communicate here. You connect the RJ45 plug to the console port on the router, and the DB9 part of this entire thing goes into the computer. Okay, the router is decompressing the image, so it's soon going to be done booting. An alternate way in the more modern routers is to use a mini USB to USB cable. I am using the USB approach. It is it requires you to first download a driver of a Cisco site, but luckily in this case you don't need to have a service contract, because then I'd have a problem. And the router is nearly done booting. The other way to connect is with something like Telnet or SSH. SSH is more preferred because it's secure. I mean, come on, SSH stands for Secure Shell, so why shouldn't it be secure? In this case, I am going to first to show how to configure SSH access because it's preferred over Telnet, and the router is done booting. I am going to say no to the initial configuration dialog. Come on. Okay. Why is it stuck now? Okay, forget it. It's fine now. So wait for a bit. Everything seems nice. Okay, I don't know. System startup in configuration is ignored based on the configuration register setting. Oh yes, the configuration register setting. It can be the router used through ROMmon. Can be set to ignore whatever configuration is currently on the flash memory. It's a compact flash card. On the compact flash card built into that's installed into your router. It can be 1, 2. In my case, it's 2. Could be more probably, but I don't know why would you need so much that much. But I guess some people just could use it. Anyways, I am already in the router, so what I'm going to do is first enable. I am going to use shortcut because it's easier and faster. Then I am going to enter the configure terminal. And whoa, what just happened? Okay, it's never supposed to be like that. It's supposed to be all in a nice 2 columns, but I guess it isn't. Whatever, I guess it's fine. So first things first. I am going to enter the line config mode, and that's a lot of stuff, but what I'm here for is transport protocols and the input, and we'd like to use the SSH protocol because it's secure, and I am going to leave it as this, I think. But oh yes, a password. Password is important. You definitely want to set a password because, well, if you don't, then come on, shut up. What was I saying? Oh yes. So before you'd like to set up passwords because otherwise someone will just have an open door. It's like leaving your house, but you don't even bother to close the door. That's how unsecure it is. So as you can see, I have already started typing in the password command. It can allow me to specify an unencrypted password. So I'm going to type in password 0 and now type in some sort of clear text line password. Don't worry about it. I will show how to make it encrypted in the config later on. I'm going to set a very simple password, like, I don't know, Cisco test, something like that. And if the command hasn't really returned anything, in most cases it means that it went fine. So I'm going to get auto exit. Okay. I am going. Okay, maybe I should. Okay, keep it as this. I don't know why is Windows getting so pissy about this, but whatever. So what was I saying? Okay, so exit. So first things first, I'm going to abort, control show running config. It's going to check the configuration right now, and as you can see, the right now in the config our password is incomplete clear checks, which isn't exactly nice nor what would we want. So I am going to type in enable. Okay, never mind, not this. Config terminal, and I'm going to. Can you not enable password? Oh wait, whatever. Not, it's not this service. So I can enable here quite of a plethora of services here, but what we're really interested in is password encryption. What it will do is simply exit. Show. It's simply going to encrypt all the passwords inside the config file. I am going to show it if I did everything properly. And as you can see, the password is now encrypted nicely, and we now no longer need to worry about someone knowing the password simply by just looking into the config. So now that we have set up a password for the SSH line, it's also going to be quite favorable to set up a password first for the console. Say password 0. This should do, and I am going to exit and use exit again. Exit, enable, and forget it. It's not in enable mode. It's all in configure mode. Terminal, of course. So not this. Enable password and 0. Say enable. So I have already gone ahead and set up password for the enable mode, or the more elevated, sort of like going into the administrator account or elevating your permissions to administrator on Windows. I have already set up a password through SSH and set up a password to go in through console. I'm going to demonstrate its operation in a minute now, but what I'm going to do is, first things first, bring up the Gigabit Ethernet 0 interface, because I would like to first assign it an IP address. What is 02 55 no 000. I am going to give it a not here, default. Okay, never mind. I don't think that's what you do. IP default router, default gateway. Oh yes, 10.0.0.1. So what I'm doing right now is setting up some addressing for the first gigabit Ethernet interface. I have already gone ahead and entered the gigabit Ethernet 00, which is the first interface on the router. Set an IP address, and then left, which is a bit too early because I still need to bring the port back up, because by default on Cisco routers all ports are disabled. Set a default gateway for the router, which in this case is my laptop. So I'm going to really quickly go back into the gigabit Ethernet interface 00 and use the no shutdown command, because the shutdown command and down, which is odd. Okay, it's back up. So the shutdown command disables a port, but I can use no to negate it, so it brings up back the port back up, which is quite convenient. So now that's done, I'm going to exit the interface and set a domain name. How did you domain name? Perfect. So I'm going to set up a domain name, say that, because we don't need to anything complicated. And this is the part where I would set up SSH. So IPS, and I forgot how do you even set it up. This is gonna take a while. So I guess I'll be back when I figure out, when I remind myself how to do SSH again. So, first things first, we would like to set up AAA or accounting. It's basically something related to accounts. I don't remember the entire acronym. It was authentication, accounting, and something else. So I'm going to create a new model, and add a username, and say SSH user, and password 0 SSH Cisco SSH. So I have already a user set up, which is pretty good because, well, before you connect to a router with SSH, the router obviously needs to have a user set up, and that's what I have already gone ahead and done. Now what we would like to do is generate pick a keeper, crypto key, generate RSA, encryption, I suppose. Actually, as a matter of fact, I could just RSA. Oh yes, I have completely forgotten about, but before you do generate an RSA keeper for SSH, you need to change the hostname other than routers. So I am going to go host name. I'm going to go right ahead and do that. Say test router 01, and now that's done, we can finally generate an RSA keeper. And now the keys have been successfully. Okay, actually we're going to do that once again. I'm going to set up a 1024-bit modulus, because as you can see here, it needs to be at least 760 bits for SSH version 2, and we don't want to use version 1. It's probably less secure. It took its time, obviously, and SSH has been enabled successfully. So I am going to go ahead and open another session of putty and use SSH to connect. If everything has gone right, it is already requesting me to cache the key. I am going to connect just once. I am going to log as SSH user, as I have set up earlier, and now I need to give it its password, which was Cisco SSH, and now we are in the router over SSH, which is already good, and from this point any other setup can be done through SSH without having to sit in all this noise that I'm currently putting up with, which is pretty good, because right now I could just leave to my room and let the router be and remotely do all the setup, which is quite good, I guess. Now I have beforehand set up an enable password, so I am going to demonstrate how this works. As you can see, instead of simply throwing me into enable mode as the router did earlier, it is now asking me for a password. So I am going to enter the password as I have set it before. Voila! We are in. So now that it is done, it would be pretty unfortunate if something happened and the router happened to lose power. For example, I don't know, I tripped on the cable and it disconnected, or I accidentally flipped the AC switch back on the router. That wouldn't be very nice, I suppose. So what I'm going to do now is save the config to the flashcard. So I'm going to simply type in copy, run in config, startup config, and it's going to build the configuration. It's going to take its time, and now I can perfectly fine exit the SSH connection, and now we're back to the connection over USB. So what I'm going to do right now is enter ROM1 again and set the configuration registers to stop ignoring the configuration file that we have just left on the compact flashcard. So I'm going to go ahead and first exit the config. Okay, I don't care that we just, and I'm going to ask it to restart, and come on, why aren't you working? And restart, resume, reload. It's pretty useful to sometimes give the documents a read. How do you, whatever. Pronunciation isn't very important right now. And now the router is going to reload. I am going to now prepare to hit the break sequence. For information, it is usually it's supposed to be control and break. I'm going to wait. Actually, I'm just going to start clicking beforehand. Okay, so we are now in the ROM monitor. As you can see, it's showing that the command boot has been aborted because I started to run an interrupt. So what I'm going to do is open the configuration register utility. Oh, okay, that happens. So as you can see, currently the register is set to so that break and abort has effect. System config info is ignored, which is not what we want it to do, because, well, if it does such a thing, it's going to, every time it boots, it's going to load the default startup config instead of the startup config we just prepared. So I'm going to say yes, I want to change the configuration. No, we don't want to enable diagnostic mode. I don't want to use net. I don't want to do this. And no, and I want to disable that ignore system config info has an effect. So I disabled that, change, no, and everything is fantastic. So now we can reset. The router is going to reboot once again, and everything should be mighty fine. This is going to take a short while, that's for sure, but it should work if everything has gone right. And because at least in my failure of an SSH tutorial on an HP switch, which I probably translate to English, and this video to Polish, but that's whatever. At least this time we managed to connect. What do you get out? Okay, never mind. What was I saying? Oh yes, unlike the SSH video on the HP switch, Um, what what happened there is that I couldn't connect over SSH at all, because then the switch just hung for some reason. I mean, it still works, but the console just decided to hang for some reason, freeze and stuff like that. Uh, so this time everything has worked perfectly, which is good. It's going to load the image. This is going to take a short while, but soon enough we should be back into the prompt. Okay, it's nearly done. Any minute now. Any second now. Come on. Okay. Never mind. Okay. And now it is nearly done booting. Come on. Come on. Yes, it's taking its time, of course. I'm going to let it all know about this stuff. And I think it's all good now. So I am going. Why did this happen? Okay, whatever. It doesn't matter. What I'm going to do is now show the running config. Okay, I just need to enable. Perfect. And now I'm going to show the running config. Build it, stuff like that. And as you can see, everything is perfectly fine. So another thing I'm going to... Now everything is perfectly fine, because now the router is set up so now you can access it over the secure shell. You no longer need to sit with it in the same room. You can go somewhere else and manage it from that somewhere else. So thank you for watching, I guess, and I see you next time, I guess.